So good morning po my dear students. So for today's video, we're going to talk about hypothesis and hypothesis testing process. So as you can see, this is just a recap of what we have discussed last meeting or on the previous days on your classroom po. Opo. So now let's first define what hypothesis is. So hypothesis daw po is an educated guess. So why educated again my dear students? Because our claims are actually based on a study na. Meron na po tayong claim about the certain population. However, you as a researcher, you wanted to challenge if these studies still exist up until now. Opo, so that's why it is educated guess. Kasi meron na pong study and you wanted to study it further. So it is an assumption or claim about the population parameter. So I want you to take note about the word population parameter. Opo, population parameter and not sample statistic. When we say population parameter, we are dealing with the measures of central tendency and the measure of variability. However, my dear students, dito po sa population parameter, hindi po lahat ng measures of central tendencies and variability ang tinitignan natin. Meron lang po tayong dalawa. These are the mean, which is the population mean, and the P, which is our population proportion. So ito lang pong dalawa ang tinitignan natin when we are formulating our hypothesis. So now let's define the hypothesis testing na po. Hypothesis testing was defined as the statistical method of testing claims. It is used to arrive on the sound decision. So as you can see po, my dear students, kahit sa isang courtroom, a person kahit sinasabi or kiniklaim ng marami that he or she is the murderer, that person will never be the murderer not unless proven otherwise or not unless proven beyond reasonable doubt. Kasi nga po, sa korte, meron tayong tinatawag na due process bago siya paratangan na siya ang murderer. So in mathematics po, that due process is what we call the hypothesis testing. And just like any other process, meron po itong steps. The hypothesis testing has 4 steps, which will be discussed on our next video po. So it is used to arrive on the sound decision because we are dealing here with numbers. And we all know that numbers don't lie. So ito pong hypothesis testing natin, we are using statistical treatments. And by that, we are sure that the evidence are pointing on a certain conclusion na alam nating valid as long as yung mga data din po na ginather natin sa data gathering process natin are valid also. Okay, to continue, let us go to our next slide. Now, hypothesis po has 2 types. It's either the null hypothesis or alternative hypothesis. When we say null hypothesis, this is the statement of no difference. Opo, null hypothesis po has no statistical significance with the hypothesized value. It is denoted by HO. The alternative hypothesis naman po, statements of difference or real effect has some statistical significance, whether it is a smaller, greater, or different than na difference with the statistical value. It is denoted by HA. So as you can see po, my dear students, ito pong dalawa are actually contradictory to each other. Kapag itong null hypothesis, sinabi niya na walang difference, alternative, sasabihin niya na may difference. It's either nagbago lang, which is denoted by an equal sign, or smaller yung value ngayon, or naging greater. So, ganon. So, actually, sa isang hypothesis testing process, ito pong dalawa ang ginagawa natin. Opo, kasi kapag yung isa po yung nireject natin, yung isa po yung i-accept natin. Kapag si alternative naman po yung nireject natin, ang i-accept natin si null hypothesis. So, ibig sabihin, ito pong dalawa sa isang hypothesis testing process, ginagawa po nating pareho. So to further illustrate, let us have this one. So ano po kaya yung una nating magagawa dito? So sabi po natin kanina, parehas naman po nating fino-formulate ang hypothesis, both the null or alternative. Pero dito, gusto ko lang pong malaman kung ano po yung una nating pwedeng magawa. Is it the null or alternative? So the academic grades of UM students as of the fourth quarter is significantly higher than the previous quarters. So katulad po 'di ba ng definition natin kanina, alternative sinasabi po nito na may difference. It's either greater, lesser, or sinasabi niya lang talaga na may different with the use of different than. So dito po, my dear students, we have here higher. And once something is higher, alam natin ang una nating pwedeng magawang hypothesis is the alternative hypothesis. How about this one? The introduction of the video lessons affects the performance of the students. So wala naman pong sinabi na higher, wala din pong sinabi na lower, pero alam natin na may nagbago. So therefore, ang pwede natin ditong magawang una is the null hypothesis. At pwede natin i-contradict yung null hypothesis by the alternative. Okay, how about this one? A researcher claims that the mean solving time for the students to finish their quarterly assessment in one subject is more than 30 minutes. So, meron naman po tayong word na more than here, more than. And when something is more than the other, it is alternative po. So, kapag tatandaan niyo lang po, ang una niyong magagawa sa alternative, mauna niyo pong magagawang alternative kapag meron po kayo mga words na greater than, less than, or something, or any other words na minimin po niya yung the same thing. And that is alternative. Pero kapag hindi po niya sinabi technically kung greater than or less than, or kapag meron po kayong mga nakita na at least, at most, are different, ang una niyo pong magagawa lagi is the null hypothesis. So Mrs. Reyes claims that her students scored an average of 91 in their mathematics quiz. So dito po, my dear students, wala din pong sinabi na tumaas or bumaba. Pero sinabi niya lang po na si Mrs. Reyes, yung mga students niya nakascore ng 91. So technically, this is a null hypothesis. Ang una po natin pwedeng magawa ay null hypothesis. How about this one? According to survey, the average monthly income of Filipino families is 307,190. So dito din po, alam po natin na hindi naman po sinabi na greater than or less than 307,190. So this is still a null hypothesis. Now, let's try to formulate the alternative and the null hypothesis. So for example, we have this problem. A grade 11 researcher reported that the average sleeping time of senior high school students is 6 hours. A sample of 70 students was surveyed and found that they have mean sleeping time of 6.7 hours. At a level of significance of 0.05, is the claim true if the standard deviation of the population is 2 hours? So question mark po yan, my dear students. So now, sabi po natin, balik po tayo sa definition of hypothesis. Sabi po sa hypothesis definition, it is the assumption about the population parameter. And when we are dealing with population parameter again, we will just look at two measures. It's either the population mean and the population proportion. So sa population mean po, alam niyo po na population mean siya kapag may nakita na po kayong average. Mean and average are just synonymous with each other. At kapag may nakita na tayong ganito, yung mga numbers po, yung average mismo, yung average, halimbawa dito, sleeping time, siya po yung magiging basis ng null and alternative natin. Kapag P naman po or the proportion, pag nakakita na po kayo ng mga percent, yun po yung magiging base natin or basis natin ng null and alternative. So for example, this one, my dear students, sabi po dito, dapat daw po si average taken from the population. So ito po, a grade 11 researcher reported that the average sleeping time of the senior high school students is 6 hours. Dito naman po, meron din naman po siyang mean. Pero dito po, a sample of 70 students was surveyed and found that they have mean sleeping time of 6.7 hours. So ito pong 6.7 hours, taken po siya kay 70 students. Pero si 6 hours po dito, taken po siya sa senior high school students. Now, my dear students, I want to ask yourselves, ano po ang mas malaki? Is it the senior high school students or the 70 students lang? So as you can see, mas malaki po si senior high school students. So therefore, ang magiging alternative and null hypothesis po natin is about here, about the 6 hours. So pwede po natin siyang magkaroon tayo ng HO and HA about this two. So first, alamin po natin kung meron po bang nagsasabi na this is or the 6 hours is greater or lesser. So reread again natin yung problem. A grade 11 researcher reported that the average sleeping time of the senior high school students is 6 hours. A sample of 70 students was surveyed and found that they have mean sleeping time of 6.7 hours. At a level of significance of 0.05, is the claim true if the standard deviation of the population is 2 hours? So as you can see, wala naman pong mga words na nagsasabi na it is greater or lesser. So therefore, alam po natin na pwede nating magawa dito is the null hypothesis muna. So in symbolic notation, that is mu is equal to 6 hours. So dito naman po, anong kabaliktaran ng equal? Unequal po. Opo, is not equal to 6 hours. Ngayon po, my dear students, pwede na natin siyang gawin into worded form. So we have here, since mu po is the average, kaya pwede natin siyang sabihin na the average sleeping time of senior high school students is 6 hours. So ito naman po, my dear students, kapag binaliktad natin siya or kinontradict natin siya, meron lang po tayong idadagdag na isang word. At ano pong word yun? Yun po ay not. Para po makonote natin yung not equal. Apo. So we have here the average sleeping time of senior high school students is not 6 hours. So, ganun lang po si null and alternative gawin. So, let's try another example. So, for example, we have here a school administrator claims that the average tardiness of the students in his school is lower than 10 days. So again, my dear students, lagyan natin siya ng palatandaan. Sabi dito, the average tardiness of the students in his school is lower than 10 days. To validate this claim, a sample of 100 students was used and found that the sample mean is 15 days with a standard deviation of 2 days. If the population standard deviation is 2.5 days, test if the administrator's claim is valid at the level of significance of 0.01. So meron na naman po tayong nakita na average at meron din po tayong nakita dito na mean of 15 days. Pero sabi nga po natin, ang lagi nating tinitignan ay yung sa population. So ano po yung mas malaki, my dear students? Yun bang school o yung 100 students lang sa school? So mas malaki yung lahat ng students sa school. So therefore, alin yung gagamitin natin? Ito pong 10 days, hindi po si 15 days. Kasi si 15 days, galing lang po siya dito sa 100 na students. Pero sa 10 days, galing po siya dito sa buong school or sa buong estudyante sa school na yon. So therefore, ano po, my dear students, ang pwede nating magawang una? Is it the null hypothesis or the alternative hypothesis? So remember, we have here the word lower. At kapag lower po siya, alam natin na ang symbolic notation ng lower is like this. So, ibig sabihin, pwede nating magawa agad-agad si alternative kasi meron po siyang word na lower. So, take note, definition po natin ng alternative hypothesis. So, it is the or it state the significant difference, whether it is smaller, larger, or different from. So alam po natin na may word ditong lower, so that is mu less than 10 days. So kapag binaliktad po natin ito, we have here mu is greater than or equal to 10 days. Opo. So yan po yung kabaliktaran ni less than, greater than, pero isasama natin si equal because we are referring here to the normal curve. At ang normal curve po, my dear students, is 100%. Kaya kailangan may unequal po siya. Opo. To satisfy our normal curve na 100%. So now, let's turn the symbolic notation into the worded form. So we have here, kapag less than or lower than, ikakopy lang po natin yung nandito. So we have here the average, because we are talking about the mu here. Opo. So ito po, from the symbolic notation, gagawin lang po natin siyang word. At since ang mu po is actually the population mean or the population average, lagi po nating sisimulan ang ating formulation ng hypothesis natin with the word the average. The average tardiness, kasi yun po yung pinag-uusapan natin, yung tardiness daw po ng mga students, of students in administrator school, in the administrator school, is lower than 10 days. Ngayon, kailangan lang po natin itong i-contradict. So, meron na po tayo ditong guide na symbolic notation. Pwede na po natin siyang gawin into worded form. The average, again, tardiness, the average tardiness of students in the administrator school is 10 days para po dito sa equal sign at di ba po meron pa po tayong greater, kaya pwede po nating dagdagan na or more to connote the more o po the greater dito po. So again po, ulitin lang po natin, the average tardiness of students in the administrator school is 10 days. Opo, 10 days kasi po may equal sign po siya dito or more para po dito sa greater than. So is it clear? So if it's not clear, you can always chat me on my personal account or you can leave a comment here. So example number 3. The average weighted mean of UMS students as of the third quarter is 89 with a standard deviation of 5. A teacher at a certain school believes that it is higher. She conducted a survey to 20 students and found that their mean average is 92 with a standard deviation of 7. Run a hypothesis test at a level of significance of 0.05. So again, hanapin po natin yung merong mean. Opo, so we have our average. So meron po tayong weighted average mean. So meron din po tayo dito na nakita na mean average uli of 92. Pero alin po dito sa dalawang to yung kukunin natin? So sabi po natin, dapat taken from the population. So ano po bang mas malaki? Is it the 20 students only here or the humanities and social sciences students opo, sa buong campus? So still, ang mas malaki po is yung humanities and social sciences. So ibig sabihin po, ang kukunin po natin is yung average weighted mean po ng yung students. At ilan po yun? 89. Ngayon po, ang susunod natin pong titignan, so lagyan po natin dito HO and HA. Ang susunod po nating titignan dito is titignan po natin kung meron po tayong word na nag-i-indicate na may change. Is it higher or lower, lesser or greater? Mga ganon. Kapag meron po tayong mga ganong words, alam natin ang uunahin natin gagawin is the alternative. Pero pag wala naman po, we'll proceed to the null. Pero dito po, sa example na to, remember na meron po tayong word na higher dito. Kaya ibig sabihin po, ang una nating pwedeng magawa is the alternative hypothesis. So ibig sabihin po, mu is greater than 89. And here naman po, ano nga po yung kabaliktaran ng greater? That is less than or equal to 89. So now let's turn this into worded form. So the average weighted mean of UM's students as of the third quarter is 89. Or, tapos na po ba? So, hindi pa po is 89 kasi po equal pa lang po yun or less or lower. Pwede nating sabihin or lower because we're talking about the grades. So, ngayon po, kapag greater naman, the average weighted mean of UM's students as of the third quarter is, so meron po tayo dito na greater than, is more than, pwede din naman nyo sabihin na is greater than, pwede din nyo naman na sabihin na is over. So, any word po na nag-i-indicate na mas tumaas is pwede po. Opo. So, for our null hypothesis, the average weighted mean of UM students as of the third quarter is 89 to indicate our equal sign in our symbolic notation. Or lower, para naman po dito sa less than sign. Dito naman po, more than 89 kapag greater than. So, I hope my dear students, clear na po to sa inyo. So, let's proceed to our next example. So, our fourth example po is the average speed of a spacecraft outside Earth is 2,500 miles per second with a standard deviation of 100 miles per second. And astrophysics students believe otherwise. He observed 25 spacecraft and found that the sample mean is 2,700 and the sample standard deviation is 500 miles per second. Run a hypothesis test at the level of significance of 0.10. Now again, my dear students, let us check for the word average or mean. So meron po tayo dito nakalagay na average. And meron din po tayo dito nakalagay na sample mean. Pero yung kukunin po natin dito is ito pong 2,500 miles because si 2,700 is actually taken from the sample here. May nakalagay na sample. Kaya ang kailangan natin is the population parameter just like on our definition. Kaya ibig sabihin, pwede po natin gamitin si 2,500 miles per seconds as our alternative or our null. Ngayon po, tingnan po muna natin kung meron pong words na greater than or less than. Meron po ba? So dito po wala naman pong sinabi. Ang sinabi lang po, naniniwala si astrophysics student na it is otherwise. Pero hindi niya naman po sinabi kung greater than or less than. So technically, ang pwede po nating magawa agad is the null hypothesis. So we have here mu must be equal to 2,500 miles per second, or that is MP or M over H or M over S, and mu is not equal to 2,500 miles per second. So ngayon po, kailangan na po nating i-turn into worded form. So ito po pwede natin siyang sabihin as the average speed of a spacecraft outside Earth is 2,500 miles per second. So ano nga po yung dinadagdag natin para maging alternative to? Nilalagyan lang po natin ng word na not. So we have here the average speed of a spacecraft outside Earth is not 2,500 meters per second. So, yun na po. So, for our last example, let us have this one. So, if you want po, you can pause this video and try to answer it on your own. So, kung na-pause nyo na po at tapos na po kayo, you can just return it here and let's answer. So, for example, we have here the screen or the average screen time of students in a certain university. So, meron po tong of. Certain university is 8 hours every day with a standard deviation of 3 hours. A student intern believes that it is lower. She conducted a survey to 15 students and found that their average screen time is 5 hours with a standard deviation of 2 hours. Ran a hypothesis test at the level of significance of 0.01. So now, my dear students, again, hahanapin po natin yung may word na average or mean. So meron po tayo dito na average. And we have here also average. Pero alin daw po dito sa dalawa? Kasi paras naman po silang average screen time of 5 hours. Pero ito naman po, average screen time of 8 hours. So alin po dito sa dalawang tong kukunin natin? And again, it all boils down to where the data came from. So ito pong 5 hours, nanggaling po siya saan? Sa 15 students lang po. Pero sa 8 hours, saan po siya nanggaling? Sa students po nung university. So alin po yung mas malaki? Yung sa university po ba? Or dun lang po sa 15 students? So technically, dun po sa university. So therefore, ito po yung magiging basis natin, yung 8 hours po at hindi po si 5 hours. Kahit si 5 hours, may average din. So we have here HO and HA. So first, tignan natin kung may mga words po ba na lesser or greater, lower or higher. So dito po sa problem na to, si student intern believes that it is lower. So therefore, anong una natin pwedeng magawa? It is the alternative hypothesis. So pwede natin sabihin na mu is lower than 8 hours. So dito naman po, anong kabaliktaran ng less than? That is greater than or equal to 8 hours. So now, pwede na natin siyang gawin or pwede na natin siyang i-transform into the worded form. So first, the average screen time of students in a certain university is lower kasi po meron tayong less than. So, lower than 8 hours. So, dito naman po, ang kabaliktaran po ng lower is greater. Pero, kailangan po natin i-indicate na may equal sign po dito. Kaya, pwedeng the average screen time of students in a certain university is 8 hours to indicate the equal sign and to indicate naman po the greater, kailangan po nating dagdagan siya ng or more. So, is it already clear to you? So, I hope, my dear students, it is already clear to you. And I want you to remember, opo, na kapag si null hypothesis ay equal, si alternative po must be unequal. At kapag si alternative naman po ay less than, kailangan po si null hypothesis greater than or equal. At kapag si alternative ay greater than, si null hypothesis naman pong kapartner niya kailangan less than or equal. So as you can see, sa symbolic notation po ng null and alternative hypothesis, ito po yung gagamitin natin opo, sa equality and inequality symbols. And ito po yung mga magkaka-partners opo, para hindi na po malito sa exam. Huwag na pong mag-isip ng kung ano-ano, basta po kapag ang isa less than, yung isa po greater than or equal. At kapag yung isa naman po ay greater than, yung isa po less than or equal. At kapag yung isa naman po is unequal, yung isa po equal. That's it for today, my dear students. If you still have questions, please don't hesitate to comment down below. If you find this video helpful, please like and subscribe to my channel. So I'll see you next time. Bye!